Hi guys, this is my presentation of the ATX standard motherboard. So what we have here, it's a it's a view from the top of the ATX standard motherboard. So I'll start right here. We have here our I/O for integrated peripherals. These are rear connectors that you will find on the back of the computer. So when you install your motherboard on your system unit, you would find these parts behind your computer whereby you can connect your mouse. You would have your audio jack. You would have your inputs to put your external speakers. Yes. Here we have an 8-pin power connector. The 8-pin power connector, it's the one whereby you would connect your power supply and then it will connect to it, and then that's how you get power to your computer, and that is how it will get running. And yeah, here we have a heatsink. This heatsink is the heatsink whereby it has been pre-installed. So you find that we also have a heatsink that you would find on the CPU socket. Here on the CPU socket, this heatsink, you will buy it and then you will install it on top of your CPU so that it doesn't get overheated. And this way, it means your CPU socket won't get damaged. Well, your CPU won't get damaged. Here we have our RAM slots. As you can see, here we have like 4 RAM slots. So depending on the RAM space that you want, you can insert as many. Here we have a 24-pin power connector, power supply. Power supply is also connected here. So as you can see, we have an 8-pin and a 24. Reason being, you can, so depending on the power supply that you bought, you probably, maybe the power supply is using an 8-pin or a 24. You can just you have an option to use an 8-pin or a 24 power connector. So here we have an IDE pedal connector. So with this one, you will be connecting such things as your, what is this? Your hard drives and stuff. CMOS battery. The CMOS battery is for your BIOS, so that it keeps the settings. When the CMOS battery runs out, you find that your settings for the BIOS will also not be working properly. So you find issues whereby the date, you'll have to adjust the date all the time you power on your computer. SATA 2 gigabit ports. This is for you, also for your hard drive. So you might have a hard drive or a solid state drive whereby you can connect here, depending on the connection type, how it is. So you also have here a SATA 1 port. This is where also you can connect your hard drive. So depending the cable that you'd be using for that hard drive or that solid state drive, you have the option to select between the two, which one you're going to connect to. Here you have the GPU slots for your graphic card. So your graphic card here, your video card goes here to be able to view your HD videos. And then here we have our so these are the PCI slots, for expansion bus. So on this one here, you can connect your FTD connector, floppy disk drive. I don't think many people are still using floppy disk, but they, like you can see on this motherboard, you have the option to connect your floppy disk if you're still using floppy disks. Yeah. And then here we just have our PCI slots. So here it's an extension bus. You can maybe, like, if you have extensions installed, maybe you want to put more USB connectors, your Type-C connectors, you have the option to insert them here. And then this is the PCI Express for the most advanced, because now companies are trying to shift from using like more space to less space. So you'd also find these on the micro motherboards, since they are much smaller than the standard motherboard. Okay, so continuing here, I just added the components that you would connect to the motherboard. These are essentials. These are the essentials of components to get your computer running. If you're building your computer, you would need these and a motherboard. So here, right here, we have a graphic card processing unit. So the main purpose of a graphic card is for you to be able to play video games, because like video games consume a lot of space. So instead of running using a CPU or your RAM for that space, it will just use the graphic card, which is best for using HD videos and premium video games. You also have your power supply, which is essential. Power supply to power up your computer, because it works using electricity. So yeah, you would need to have your power supply. We also have our random access memory, or RAM. Our RAM lets us run our OS systems. So for that time being, if you're running an app, the RAM is the one that would like act as a gateway from taking from using the hard drive and taking the apps from the hard drive and just presenting them to you. Yeah. So here you have our hard drive. It would store our softwares, our operating systems, our files, our music, our games. And then here we have a heatsink for your CPU. Sits on top of your CPU. So you would use a thermal paste, whereby after putting your CPU putting your CPU in the CPU socket, you'd use a thermal paste to apply on top of the CPU and then put the heatsink. And this is our central processing unit. Some people would say it is the brain of the computer. So you really need this. We really need a CPU in order to get our computer running. Okay, so moving on, troubleshooting a motherboard components. Not enough power. So if there's not enough power, you'd find that your computer would not work properly. So what you want to do is you want to open up your computer, check if the pins are connected from the power supplier to the motherboard properly. Okay. You also have chances whereby it will be overheating. Overheating is typically an issue that causes your computer to function slowly, stall, and crash on a regular basis. So as you run your computer, you'll also see this with laptops at times. If like they're overheating, you find that processing data and using apps, it becomes slow. What you want to do at times is like you'd want to begin by turning off the computer and allowing it to cool. Turn off demanding applications to lower the amount of CPU power necessary to run the device. This will be a case whereby when you start up your computer, you can open the task manager and then just seeing which other apps that start up that might be causing this your computer to be running like at such rates that it causes it to overheat. Incorrectly installed components. The motherboard is linked to numerous other components, including the video card, processing, and RAM. They can cause problems if installed incorrectly. The computer may start up, but there is no picture or video. In certain circumstances, your computer may not even turn on. You may secure the video card in its slots by pushing it down. Check for bent pins, because when you're dealing with such things as your CPU, you need to make sure that you're putting it like properly, because it has pins there, and those pins might even like break. So if one pin is bent, it means you need to purchase a new CPU, so it won't work properly. So also your RAM sticks should be properly seated in their slots, with the rings securely fastened over their side. So when you put your RAM, it has some pins that you push to make it sit in there secure. So if that is not done, you'll find that your computer won't work properly. Check that check that the processor and your motherboard is aligned with the motherboard. So yeah, I need to also check those kind of stuff like that. Make sure that you placed your motherboard properly on the system unit. Also, you have screws whereby you can secure your motherboard to set properly. So sometimes you have issues like with the CMOS battery. As time goes, the CMOS battery runs out, and this results in getting error messages as boot error, unable to detect disk drive. When using your mouse may not respond properly. You also lose time and date, as I mentioned earlier. The only way to resolve this is to replace your CMOS battery. You have to just replace it and get a new one. RAM not detected. RAM is an important component to your computer. If your RAM is showing errors or it isn't detected, try cleaning the electrical contact. You can do this by getting a cotton swab and then getting a 91% alcohol spray to wipe it. You can also run a diagnostic test on your Windows. So this is pre-built into your computer, so you can run a diagnostic test to check if the issue is with your RAM, and then it should return a message whereby it's telling you that your RAM it's either messed up or what. So in this case, you will have to replace your RAM. CPU not detected. CPU not identified is one of the worst things that might happen. It might appear on your screen after assembling your computer. If you do not resolve this issue, your machine will not boot because the CPU can only fit into its socket one direction. It is crucial to know how to fit it, because also on the CPU it shows how to fit your CPU into the socket. So you have like there's a triangle, it's a small triangle thing on the CPU, on the CPU sockets, and also on the CPU, just to show you how it fits in there. So should you have a case like this, you should unplug the CPU cooler, unscrew the cooler and remove it. Slightly press the metal handle on the socket and then pull it upwards. This will release the CPU. Check if any pins or any sockets are bent. If they aren't, look for a small golden triangle, the CPU's corner, and align it with the triangle on the socket. When the CPU is in place, you can push it back in, and then it start working again. So still continuing with the CPU not detected, you will be unable to boot your computer if the CPU motherboard socket pins are damaged. In this situation, you may try to repair the bent pin manually, which is a difficult operation because those things are really small. So I think the best option is to replace the CPU or motherboard entirely, because you find that the way it's so small, those pins, that they could break into the motherboard, whereby it should be inserted in the CPU socket. So the only option is to replace the motherboard, which will cost you a lot as well. Power supply unit related issues and causes. Depending on the condition, the troubleshooting procedures below can assist identifying if the problem is with the power supply unit. System does not power on. So if the system does not power on, it should tell you that the issue is with the power. So that means there's no power going to your computer. Plug the power supply unit power cable into a known working power outlet. Swap the power supply unit power cable with a known working cable. So you can identify that probably the issues with the cable or with the power supply. Verify that the power supply unit power cable and internal power adapters are secure connected. So you should securely make sure if these are connected from the motherboard to the power supply. Check the power supply unit for any damages caused by overheating or excessive wear. So after some time, I find the power supply has been damaged, or how things are. After some time, they get worn out. So test the system with known working power supply units or equal or greater wattage. So you can maybe if there's an extra power supply, you can check if the issues with the power supply. You can just take another power supply and try using that one just to see if it's working or not. Yeah. So yeah, that is my presentation of the motherboard. So how would I work with this is that I would just start off as I started with them, showing the top of the ATX motherboard, present to the people on how and which components do we find on the standard ATX standard motherboard, because the ATX standard motherboard is the one that most people use and you would find on your desktop computer. And then also just go with the main components that are connected to the motherboard, whereby you find your hard drive, your heatsink, your CPU, your RAM sticks, your power supply, and graphic card. Yeah, because those are essentials to get your computer running. Thanks for watching my presentation. Thank you very much. That's all for me.